Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel, continuing our discussion on understanding the upcoming transit of Rahu and Ketu, which is going to take place on April 13th. So we already had one video where we discussed the general guidelines, the transit guidelines and the results starting from the Aries ascendant till Leo ascendant. In this video friends, we are going to continue our discussion from the Virgo ascendant and we will go till the Pisces ascendant. And friends, all of you who haven't watched the last video, it's my humble request to watch that. Like many times what happen is that if your ascendant is Libra, your ascendant is Capricorn, so you might have completely skipped that video, that it does not explain pertaining to and specific to your ascendant. So first I'm just going to give you a quick overview or revision what we discussed in the last video. Then we will start our discussion from the Virgo ascendant natives. So friends, on April 13th, now this transit of Rahu and Ketu is little bit distinctive in this regard that Rahu definitely is going to be coming out of the Taurus sign where it is considered as exalted, and it is going to be entering the domain or territory of the planet Mars, because it is going to be entering the Aries sign. And from Ketu's perspective, Ketu was also in a dignified state because it was currently transiting in the Scorpio sign, which it co-rules as well. The moment it is going to enter the Venus ruled Libra sign, even the matters of relationship are going to come to the forefront. So how can you assess this transit? So first try to understand this thing that both Rahu and Ketu, both the nodes hold this key to bring out the potential which we are carrying within ourselves. Beyond doubt, Rahu has everything to do with our present environment, with our futuristic growth, our path in this lifetime, our materialistic goals and desires. There is no other planet which is as ambitious, as manipulative, as diplomatic, as intuitive as Rahu is. And when we talk about from Ketu's perspective, definitely friends, Ketu has everything to do with your spiritual potential, like churning up and bringing out the best of the spiritual potential within you. Like the way we say that the divine light communicates all of our deeds from the past life, communicates with us wheresoever Ketu is going to be placed in your chart. Ketu is considered as the eldest amongst all the planetary force. There is no other planet, there is no other force which could be even considered as equivalent to Ketu. Now friends, this axis of Rahu and Ketu is sensitive, being placed in the Martian and the Venusian axis, is just because whenever we talk about Rahu, we only talk about Rahu's like psychological aspect. It's it's a craving for growth and development and progress, but many times we undermine or we ignore the kind of force, the kind of intensity which Rahu also represents. So the influence of Rahu in the Aries or in the Martian energy is like giving a kind of a NOS cylinder, or like putting a person who is amateur, who is just habitual of driving a regular motorbike, and making that person sit in a rocket launcher, or making that person sit in a sports bike. So the potential is going to be huge. It all comes down to whether you are equipped, whether you are disciplined enough to handle that surge or force of energy. And when we talk about from Ketu's perspective, so friends, it's not like that only your 7th house tells about your relationship. Wheresoever the energy of Libra falls in your chart, basis your ascendant, some sort of a deep connection you definitely carry with the living signification of that house. And along with that, you cannot even overlook this fact that it's the Libra energy only which brings the kind of a balance in all of our life's aspiration. So the entry of Ketu over there is definitely going to bring out the deep karmic lessons in the matters of the relationship specific to the house where Ketu or like Libra is placed in your chart, and regarding the living signification of that house. So that is something friends which we are going to have our discussion on this video. And I also explained in the last video friends, the introduction video on this topic, that just because friends, like Rahu and Ketu are always in a retrograde motion. They stay in one sign for around 18 months of time, and they generally take around 18 years to complete their complete axis. So you can say this thing and you can look forward to in this regard that whatsoever Rahu and Ketu would have done in your life, Like for example, if you are already 20 or 21 years of age, so your first Rahu return and Ketu return would have happened. Or if you are like a 37, 38, 39 year old, so your second Rahu Ketu return must have happened. So this axis is sensitive in this regard, that this axis hold this key to open up new chapters in your life, and all those possibilities are going to get more strengthened if you are actually in that stage of your life, that you are close to the maturity of the age of Rahu, or you are currently in the Mahadasha of Rahu, or the sign lord, you are in the Mahadasha or Antardasha of Mars. So if in this way your life is unfolding, or you are in that stage of your life, then this axis or this upcoming transit of Rahu and Ketu is definitely going to take more importance in your personal life as well. So that is something, friends, which we discussed in the last video. Now we will start our discussion, and we will first take up the case of the Virgo ascendant natives. So friends, in your case, as you can fairly see, that this axis of Rahu and Ketu is going to take place in your 8th house and the 2nd house, so which can be seen as a little bit sensitive axis placement for Rahu and Ketu to be placed in. Now friends, try to understand this thing when I say sensitive. So I'm saying it's sensitive from all regards. So first of all, to begin with, if you want to understand it from Rahu's perspective, so definitely Rahu is going to be entering the domain and territory of the planet Mars. Now Mars is not a very auspicious or a very positive planet for you guys. The second thing is that, like the way many astrologers also take Rahu's like sign ownership and a kind of a familiarity with the Aquarius energy. So even in your chart, the energy of Aquarius also falls in the 6th house. So because of which overall alignment is indicating towards extreme caution and kind of a self-restraint and discipline, which needs to be inculcated during this transit or this stay of Rahu and Ketu in your 8th house and the 2nd house axis. Now friends, like specifically if you want to focus on the Rahu's perspective, so I can say this thing with confidence that generally the energies of Rahu and Ketu create a chaos or confusion for all those people only who have tied themselves down only to the acceptable norms of the culture or society they are living in. But let's say, for example, if you are in any nature of work where there is a lot of like secrecy which is involved, lot of underhanded activities are involved, then you can definitely get benefited. Also, if Mars is in a dignified state in your chart, and I have already mentioned that thing, that you are in that stage of your life where Rahu is gaining prominence in your life. You could be like a 36-year-old, you could be 42nd-year-old, you might be running through the Mahadasha of Rahu, and along with that Mars is dignified, well placed in your chart, then we can also look at this transit in this regard, that the positive and benefic side of Rahu can also manifest. Friends, we cannot overlook this fact that Rahu's transit or Rahu's placement in the 8th house is always considered as a very good sign, a blessing for all those people who are in any sort of exploration, any sort of research, any sort of scientific field, anything to do with astrology or mystic sciences, working in foreign lands, working as a spy, in any secretive business, working in adult industry. So all these people can definitely get benefited if other factors are also contributing positively to you. The only word of caution which I used for the Virgo ascendant native comes only if you do not have a balance in your life. Like for example, if you are a kind of person who is always on his nerves, you very easily get provoked, you very easily get agitated, the people you hang out with or the surrounding influence or environment around you is not very positive, is not very protective, then you have to guard yourself. Because friends, when we talk about, when we talk about Rahu's influence on Gemini or Rahu's influence on Taurus, definitely Rahu and Ketu, Rahu specifically represents the psychological subconsciousness, and its impact and influence in our life. But when we talk about the Aries energy, so the potential and tendency of impulsiveness, of rashness is going to be definitely very high. This could also make you very much susceptible towards all sort of allergies as well. So I would say that in all those matters of life, when we talk about anything to do with sensuality, anything to do with drinking, anything to do with, if your nature of work involves dealing with weapons, dealing with any sort of fast moving vehicles and all of that, then you have to remain very cautious during this stay of Rahu in your 8th house. So strong discipline, meditation, sattvic lifestyle is advisable for all those people who have Virgo ascendant, and if they want to get benefited with this transit of Rahu in their 8th house. So I would also say, friends, that because this axis is definitely going to have a strong say not only in your family matters, but also if you are married, your relationship with your in-laws as well is definitely going to be on the pedestal. So I would say whatsoever is going to happen is going to happen in a very unpredictable, in a very quick, in a very spontaneous way. So my advice to all the Virgo ascendant native is that do not rely anything just on the basis of your assumption. It's always important to get things clear, sitting across the table with each other. And the second thing is that if you by yourself know this thing that you do not get along well with your in-laws, so it's not advisable to confront them or be in a situation or do anything which could initiate, instigate or provoke any sort of heated energy between you and your in-laws. Now friends, if you want to focus on the Ketu's perspective, so definitely friends, like when we talk about Ketu's transit in the 2nd house, so again, like if 8th house represents your relationship with your in-laws, your partner's family, 2nd house is your family. So I would say, friends, like the 2nd house related matters, if you are in any sort of joint family business, you are in banking field, anything to do with having your own business, you have to remain very cautious, because the transit of Ketu in the 2nd house can suddenly trigger all those kind of expenses or all those kind of events. So it becomes very important for you to at least take out time or make use of a certain portion of your income in supporting some charitable, some religious causes, and like supporting those causes. The second thing is that definitely, friends, your speech is going to get very critical. It could become a little bit harsh as well. So it becomes very important. You might be speaking out the truth, but that might be perceived as little bit harsh as well. And it is not very advisable when Ketu is going through your 2nd house, that if you do not have a very pleasing or very happy childhood experiences or memories, to go down that memory lane. So if you know that your past, your childhood experiences have been very bitter, have been filled with trauma or abuse, so with Ketu transiting over there, if you will start going that road, you might become extremely obsessive or kind of anxious because of mulling over all those bad memories. So that is also one thing which I want to say over here, is that, friends, that when we talk about making a fine balance in the matters of your finances while you are speaking, all those things needs to be inculcated. Doing charities, supporting charitable causes, a yogic, sattvic lifestyle needs to be inculcated. I can say this thing that this axis is only going to majorly benefit to all those people in whose case, specifically from the perspective of Rahu, 8th house related matters are getting qualified. Anything to do with the foreign entities, anything to do with research, with exploration, or even if legitimately in your case secrecy, working in any secrets or those kind of organization is getting qualified, you can get benefited. But all the other people need to follow proper precautions, proper caution, and you need to do remedies connected to the nodes. Moving ahead, friends, now if you want to understand the results for all the Libra ascendant natives, so definitely, friends, in your case this transit becomes very important, because the axis of Rahu and Ketu is going to come right over there in your 1st house and the 7th house axis. So I would say, friends, like now if you want to start from the Rahu's perspective. So Rahu gaining predomination in your 7th house is going to bring the spotlight on the matters of relationship. Now friends, try to understand this thing, that 7th house is kind of a very undermined house when we talk about from the fame prospects, when we talk about from the commercial activities perspective, because many times what happens is that the moment we talk about 7th house, the only thing which comes to our mind is relationship or partnership or our married life. But there is a lot which we get to know from the 7th house. 7th house tells about your outlook towards the world, your relationship with the world, the way you will be perceived in the world. So when we talk about Rahu's perspective in the 7th house, so the vulnerable aspect of this transit is going to be that it can actually make you very much obsessive regarding the matters of the relationship. So let's say for example, if you have been single for a long time, so the craving to be in relationship, that sort of obsessiveness is definitely going to get very high, get very intense once Rahu is going to enter your 7th house. So it becomes very important for you that you should not commit to someone just because of that you are feeling that sort of voidness or lacking that sort of emptiness within you. So it becomes very important that in the matters of relationship, if you have to commit to someone, now friends, this is not only restricted only to the matters of love or romance or the commitment in the relationship, the same thing also gets qualified in any sort of business partnership as well, because as you can fairly see over here, Rahu at the end of the day is the head of the demon only. So it's not a positive or sattvic force like Jupiter. It's not like Jupiter is transiting through your 7th house that you can actually have faith and you can take that leap of faith. So the point which I'm trying to make over here is that all the matters of relationship, whether commercial in nature, whether in romantic loving relationship, it becomes very important that you should first check the credibility of the person, then commit yourself to that person or that partnership or that agreement. Now friends, when we talk about your public image, because Rahu is a very important planet for fame perspective. The second thing is that it's not only the fame, because Rahu have this sort of intuitiveness that he knows the kind of the trend which is going on in the world. So it can give you access to that sort of trend, inculcating those values, those qualities which are right now in public demand or mass trend. It can actually enhance your public image, the way you relate, the way you deal with the world. So I would say friends, like if in your case, either if you are a politician, you like in any way you are in any mass media related field, you are an actor, you are a musician, if in your nature of work dealing with masses or public is getting qualified, then you can fairly get benefited, or you can work or project yourself to your advantage while dealing with the people, with the masses. So from that regard, this transit of Rahu in the 7th house is creating some very positive energy. So I would say regarding the monetary, the material beneficial side, this transit of Rahu in your 7th house is definitely going to be bringing some very positive news. Now friends, shifting our focus to Ketu's transit to your 1st house. Now friends, when we talk about 1st house has everything to do with our complete life, with the concerns of our health. So I would say friends that definitely whenever Ketu like transits through the 1st house, some sort of karmic event kind of becomes a part of our unavoidable destiny. So some sort of past commitment to someone way back in your childhood. So this is the kind of similar energy or similar theme which remains both in the Ketu either transiting your 2nd house or even your 1st house. So I would say that yes, all those energies are definitely going to come and can also manifest the potential and the tendency of feeling yourself not being a part of the group, not being a part of the society, kind of feeling yourself isolated, self-rejected. So all those potential and capacities are going to be very high. So practicing gratefulness, looking at the brighter side of the life, doing as much of the meditation and yoga you can do, fixing up your breathing pattern. So all those practices, all those approach and attitude can actually bring some very good results. And definitely friends, you have to make a healthy balance, that you should not resort to this outcome that your degree and sense of fulfillment is only dependent on the kind of acknowledgement or approval you are receiving from the world. So the sense of confidence and self affirmation needs to be there, because otherwise Ketu transiting from your first house, and for all those people who have concerns of low self esteem, those people can get very badly affected whenever Ketu transits from the first house. But apart from that, friends, like for yoga, meditation, spiritual austerities, this transit of Ketu moving from your first house can be seen as a very good sign. And lastly, friends, like because Ketu is transiting from your first house, any transformation, any experimentation, any changes if you want to do in your personal image, in your personal identity, in your look. I've seen many people who gain lot of weight or lose lot of weight. They experiment with their hairstyle, with their personality. So all those experiments regarding your personal identity or your image can also prove to be very much favorable, very promising whenever Ketu is going to be transiting from any native's first house. Like for guys as well, we say that when Ketu is transiting from over your first house or over from your ascendant lord, that growing a beard can seem to be very positive, one of the Lal Kitab remedy which has been advised over there. Moving ahead, friends, now for all these Scorpio ascendant natives, so friends, as you can see that the excess of Rahu and Ketu is going to take place in your 12th house and the 6th house. So friends, beyond doubt, the transit of Ketu in the 12th house is considered as one of the very auspicious transit axis placement. Ketu, which in itself is the significator of moksha, 12th house also represents enlightenment. So from Ketu's perspective, this can be seen as a very good axis or very good house placement. And if you want to understand it from Rahu's perspective, so definitely friends, 6th house, which is one of the Upachya Bhav, so this is the house where Rahu is considered as in a very dignified state. So we are not only getting the positive indications from the axis or the house placement, but also from the perspective of which sign they are going to be entering in. So definitely friends, they are going to be entering a sign, Rahu specifically, which is being ruled by your ascendant only. So try to make out the best of this transit. And I would say, friends, that okay, specifically focusing on the 6th house related matters, I've seen many people who gain power, who gain authority whenever in this specific alignment Rahu transits through the 6th house for the Scorpio ascendant natives, and if Mars is also well dignified in their chart. The second thing is that, friends, like the way at the beginning of this video, not this video, the last video, I already mentioned this thing that the transit of Rahu in the Aries is all about adventure, fulfillment of your ambition, being very competitive, experimenting with new things, like remaining open towards embracing something new. So 6th house is all about all of our daily routines, our habits, our like how much skilled we are in our relationship with our people in our daily work life, the way you work. Like when we talk about 10th house represents your profession, like 3rd house represents your skill, your prowess, your initiatives. But when we talk about your work ethics, your work style, that comes from the 6th house. So that is what, friends, I'm trying to say over here is that now whether you are straight away connected with the 6th house related matters, you are in health industry, you are in fitness industry, you are a salaried corporate professional, medical business industry we have already discussed, or you work in the fields of insurance, or you work in the fields of law, so all those people can definitely get benefited. The good part over here is that, friends, whenever we talk about anything to do with the malefic planets or the Dushtana Bhava, the road is never easy. The only thing which I'm trying to say over here is that if your ongoing dashas are also running favorable and all the involved planets are in a strengthened state in your natal chart, then taking risk and taking initiative can be very beautifully rewarded. So you can get benefited, but yes, you have to fight. You have to give a very tough fight to your contenders or the titles or the things which you are trying to achieve. So from that front, friends, this transit of Rahu in the 6th house for the Scorpio ascendant can actually bring some very good, wonderful news. And definitely, friends, if for long you have been going through any of the concerns of debts, of financial liabilities, so this transit of Rahu from your 6th house might give you access to some sort of solution in order to pay back all of your debts or your financial liabilities. So regarding experimenting with your health, with your fitness, coming out as a strong contender in any given competitive state, this transit of Rahu from the 6th house can be seen as a very good news. Now friends, focusing on the Ketu's transit from the 12th house. So friends, try to understand this thing. We cannot even say this thing that it's just the house of moksha or enlightenment, because somehow Venus, and when we talk about Libra, I have already mentioned this thing, wheresoever Libra energy falls, that house holds a key to giving us that strong pillar or a balancing energy in our life. And along with that, in your case, Venus has also got the rulership of your 7th house, of your matrimonial life, of your relationship, of your partnership as well. So it's not like that if Ketu is not transiting from your 7th house, so you are completely saved. So just because Ketu is transiting through the same energy which has a control and a say in your 7th house related matters, I would say some sort of deep karmic lessons will be experienced during this time of Ketu's transit from your 12th house. So I would say that the worship of Lord Ganesha and the worship of goddess in any of the form in which you want to worship, like for me, for someone like me, I'm very much devoted to art, I'm very much devoted to like knowledge, all this spiritual knowledge. So for me, I always look forward to getting the grace of Ma Saraswati, goddess Saraswati. I don't know how much rich I'm going to be when I will die, but I want to die a learned person. So the point which I'm trying to make over here is that whichsoever form, like I would say that the worship of goddess Saraswati specifically, because Rahu also get controlled with the worship of goddess Saraswati. So I would say the worship of goddess and the worship of Lord Ganesha seems to be very advisable during this time when Ketu is going to be transiting from your 12th house. Some deep hidden secrets regarding your partnership, regarding your partner might come on the surface. So it all comes down to with how much gracefulness, with how much dignity you handle all those tumultuous past or the things of the past in your relationship. That is one thing which I want to say. The second thing is that friends, definitely monitor your sleep. There is definitely going to be strong communication which can be established with the higher powers, other dimensions. So doing yoga, doing meditation, monitoring your sleep, your dreams can actually prove to be very advisable, very therapeutic, because definitely the transit of Ketu from the 12th house is a very sensitive, is a very blessed kind of time which nature or universe opens for all of us. Now for all the Sagittarius ascendant natives, so this transit is going to take place in your 5th house and the 11th house. So friends, to begin with, like when we talk about the 5th house related matters, so Rahu's placement over here, that too in the Aries sign, can be seen as a very good sign, because friends, 5th house has a lot to offer, whether you talk about from the material perspective, from the spiritual perspective, whether even from the enjoyable aspect of the life, recreational aspect of the life. So definitely friends, to begin with, Rahu's transit over here is actually going to make you very competitive. Your mindset is going to work in a very fiercely, in a very competitive way. The second thing is that if in your case, you are a kind of person who has got a very outdoor life, lot of adventure, competitive sports, whether professionally, whether as a part of your hobby, as a part of your passion, that is what your lifestyle is. So you can also get benefited because of Rahu's like transit in your 5th house. And along with that friends, like in the matters of love and romance, I would say try not to be very quick to come to conclusion, but definitely friends, enjoying that passionate and very fiery kind of romance and that moments within the relationship can be foreseen with the entry of Rahu in your 5th house. Trust me friends, try to understand this thing. Rahu's transit in this Aries sign. There are other fire signs as well. When we talk about Leo, when we talk about Sagittarius, but all those other energies are not conducive, not favorable to the thrust and drive of Rahu. But when we talk about Aries and Rahu's influence in the 5th house, combining it with Aries, trust me friends, life is definitely going to take you in an adventure ride for the another 18 months. Now friends, when we talk about from any sort of speculation perspective like cryptocurrency, stock market and trading, so I would say See, many times what happen is that people try to know this thing that basis the transit guidelines, like okay, Mercury is transiting from this house, or like Saturn is transiting from this house, so that means I can get involved in stock market or trading and can get benefited. So trust me friends, when we talk about these kind of speculative nature of work, individually your chart, your kundli needs to be strong for that. Unless and until Jupiter or your 5th house lord or sun in your natal chart are not strong, the transiting planets do not hold a major say. They might create a small window of temptation, but you will not end up gaining as much you might have anticipated. So I would say, if in your chart those kind of yogas are there and your natal Mars is in a strengthened state, then you can get benefited in any speculative nature of line of work as well. Now friends, if you want to understand from the perspective of your relationship with the children, so I would say friends that there is definitely going to be very strong like kind of a roller coaster kind of ride which is going to take place with your relationship with your progeny, with your children. So I would say try not to be in this mode that just bases your preconceived notion or opinions, or kind of because Rahu many times create confusion, so it creates that wheel of confusion of which there is no rational, there is no base. So I would say that try not to come to any judgment or any conclusion regarding your parenting, regarding your relationship with your children without giving proper proper weightage to the pros and cons, or what could be the other side of the story. So that is the only one thing which I want to say regarding the matters of the parenthood, which is also seen from the 5th house related matters. And trust me friends, if in any ways you are connected with the fields of art or creativity or technical field or anything to do with mass media, films and television, creative writing, screenwriting, all those people can get very beautifully rewarded and benefited because of the transit of Rahu from your 5th house. Now friends, if you want to take our focus to the 11th house related matters, where Ketu is going to be transiting in your chart. So definitely friends, when we talk about Ketu's transit in the 11th house, that can be seen as good in this regard if your highest of the goals in life are in sync, because 11th house is a very material house. But if your material goals and your dreams and your aspirations have a spiritual bent to them as well, then you can get benefited, like some sort of epiphanies, realization. People with spiritual mindset might come to your life, might play a very pivotal role in guiding you in the right direction. So from that perspective, that transit of Ketu in your 11th house can be seen as a good sign. Trust me friends, if the Ketu energies are working in your benefit, even the strike of luck or all those events, whether pleasing or unpleasing, are going to happen in your life. They will only connect you towards your ultimate dharma or your purpose in the life only. The only thing is that Ketu's transit initially might restrict your friend circle or your active social life. That is one thing. The second thing is that friends, like when we talk about from the perspective of fame and recognition, so trust me friends, like there is no planet equivalent to Ketu, where Ketu in one strike can fulfill all of your goals and your dreams. So I would say that the worship of Lord Ganesha can prove to be very fruitful, can prove to be very therapeutic in order to get the best out of this transit of Ketu from your 11th house of your wish fulfillment and your hopes and aspirations. Moving ahead friends, now if you want to understand the results for all the Capricorn ascendant natives, so definitely friends, in your case, as you can fairly see that the excess of Rahu and Ketu is going to take place in your 4th house and the 10th house, so which is a little bit sensitive excess placement, because 4th house has everything to do with our deep inner emotions. And as you can see that when we talk about from Rahu's perspective, Rahu is a force which is never satisfied. Rahu represents those sort of insatiable appetite which can never be fulfilled, because the demon whose name was Swarbhanu, his head was cut which became Rahu, and the rest of the body became Ketu. So just like that, there is only head. No matter how much you're going to feed it, there is no body to fulfill those desires. There is no stomach over there. So the point which I'm trying to make over here is that, friends, definitely this transit of Rahu can benefit all those people in whose case, like working in the secretive like services, secret services, spying agencies, even if you are an actor, where you have to cloud your inner emotions and portray a completely different personality, where the 10th house Ketu is placed. So even all those people can get benefited. I would say, friends, that definitely like for the Capricorn ascendant native, Rahu is not a very bad planet for them because of the affinity with the ascendant Lord Saturn. So I would say that even in the matters of the 4th house, where we talk about anything to do with construction, with real estate, with agriculture, farming and all of that, so all those people can also get benefited because of the entry of Rahu in the 4th house. The only thing is that, friends, this axis or this transit of Rahu and Ketu is only going to make you vulnerable for your emotional peace of mind perspective. Regarding the material front, this axis can still open up lot many door of opportunities only if you can maintain a habit or principles or attitude of contentment, of satisfaction, balance. So these are the only areas where you have to work. And if in your case your natal Rahu and Mars is well placed, so 4th house related benefits can be attained. And one more thing, friends, because when we talk about Rahu's relationship with the living signification of the house, so the like any other malefic planet, they always create misunderstanding over there. So in any ways, try not to get into any sort of arguments or confusion or misunderstanding in your relationship with your mother, because Rahu's transit in the 4th house might create all those situation or circumstances of misunderstanding, whether in your domestic life or specifically your relationship with your mother. Now, friends, when we talk about Ketu's transit in the 10th house, that can be seen as a very good sign, because, friends, the symbol which has been attached with Ketu is of a flag. So whether you talk about the ancient civilization, even in the modern times, if you want to showcase your dominance over land, over any territory, over any country, any region, we do that by hoisting our flag in their terrain. So I would say that in order to do something substantially like very rewarding, attainment of position, of power, of showcasing your domination in your field or line of work, this transit of Ketu in your 10th house can be seen as very good. So specifically for any sort of fame, power, authority, attainment of power, authority and recognition perspective, this transit of Ketu in your 10th house can be seen as a very good sign. Specifically, friends, now what happens is that if your overall planetary alignments in your chart is very psychic driven, in your natal chart, your moon is connected with Ketu, or like your Ketu is present in your 1st house or in your 12th house. So if your chart is that psychic or spiritually driven, and for example you're also going through the Mahadasha or the Antardasha of Ketu, so the 10th house transit of Ketu is a event where you get to do something which your soul needs to do in this lifetime. You might also get a chance to demonstrate all the talents, all the gifts which you are carrying within yourself, which you might not even have awareness or access to it. So that might have something to do from the past life. You might have worked hard, you might have gained supremacy in that specific area of life in the past lifetime, and during this time Ketu might give you access to demonstrate all those gifts, all those talent, all those potentials while it is going to be transiting from your 10th house. So for any sort of attainment of power, position, fame perspective, Ketu's transit from the 10th house can be seen as a very good sign. The only thing is that because 10th house also represents people of authority, your bosses and all of that, so because of which you might run into the bosses or all those people who might be very critical or might be very hard on you initially in order to for you to prove to your best metal. So that is something, friends, which I wanted to say for all the Capricorn ascendant natives. Moving ahead, friends, Now for all the Aquarius ascendant natives, this axis of Rahu and Ketu is going to take place in your 3rd house and the 9th house. So trust me friends, if your ongoing dashas are also running very favorable, very promising, and if either Rahu or Ketu is currently activated in the transit or in the dasha system, so I would say friends that definitely this transit can prove to be very beneficial for all the Aquarius ascendant native. Because friends, try to understand this thing, that when we talk about from the perspective of Mars, where Rahu is going to be entering. So not only Mars has got the rulership of your profession, of your career, but also the 3rd house which represents your courage, your prowess. And when we talk about Venus's perspective, where Ketu is going to be transiting, so beyond doubt, Venus is the Yoga planet for you guys because of the rulership of your trine house and the angular house. So because of which friends, trust me, this could be a lifetime transit for you, and try to make the best use out of this window of opportunity which the nodes are going to open for you. Now friends, looking at from the Rahu's perspective, so as you can fairly see that Rahu is going to be entering in the 3rd house, and it is going to be entering the sign of Aries, which is the Kalpurush energies, 1st house energy of initiative, of rebirth, of transformation, initiating something, experimenting with something. So I would say friends that definitely this is going to be time when a lot of new development will take place. And I would say friends, try to understand this thing, or this thing in quote, that you do not have to rely on other people or resort on other people's aid. You have that within you, or you have to develop that deep within from you to whatsoever changes you want to bring in your life. Whether it's about you are not happy in your present prevailing circumstances, you want to change the job, you want to undertake any course, any training, or for long you have some business idea within your mind, and if your ongoing dashas are also running positive and favorable, so I would say friends that you can definitely get benefited, or you can succeed in taking chances, initiating things, and all those initiatives taken by you, they might end up becoming a very good cash cow ventures as well. So I would say friends, like whether you are straight away connected with the 3rd house related like prospects, like whether you are a skilled person, you are a freelance person, you are a journalist, you are a blogger, you are in sales, you are in media, you are in marketing, so all those people can definitely get benefited because of Rahu's transit in your 3rd house. And the second thing is that friends, not only from the commercial, material or professional perspective, because 3rd house also is the house of our journeys, of our hobbies, all sort of recreational activities. So this is what the qualities which Rahu and Mars or the Aries energy represent. They both represent the fearless side of our human personality. So I would say friends that lot of adventure, displaying competitiveness, zest for life, enthusiasm, travels can be foreseen or is getting promised for all the Aquarius ascendant natives. And if you work with your own skill, you are a freelance person, so all those people can get benefited. Lot many opportunities are waiting for you, and new stage development, new initiatives, new chapters are bound to open in your life during this transit of Rahu in your 3rd house. Now friends, moving to the Ketu's perspective. So definitely friends, there couldn't be any better house placement for Ketu. Like when we talk about 9th house placement, we talk about 12th house placement, these are the placement of divine blessings for Ketu to be placed in. So here we are not talking about your natal chart, we are talking about from the transit perspective as well. But definitely friends, Ketu is going to unfold and give you the results of all the good deeds done by you in the past. Because friends, whenever we talk about 9th house represents all sort of charitable gestures, all the prayers, all the worship, unconditionally helping people. So all those good deeds done by you will manifest. The results, the fruits of all those good deeds and karma could manifest during a time when Ketu is going to be transiting from your 9th house. The only one thing friends which I want to say over here is that apart from being ritualistic, being religious, being devoted, this is going to be time when you have to remain very respectful towards your tradition, towards your family guru, towards your father, your ancestry lineage or the teachings of your ancestors. Only if you can maintain a very reverential, respectful attitude towards all those entities, Trust me, good results are bound to happen for all the Aquarius ascendant natives during this transit of Rahu and Ketu in your 3rd house and the 9th house. So friends, the beauty is going to be taking place in this way that during these 18 months, not only you are empowered by your own skill, your own courage, you are self-sufficient, and along with that the divine and the grace is also supporting it, and kind of like divine is kind of blessing all of the endeavors and all of the initiatives taken by you. So very good window of opportunity for all the Aquarius ascendant natives. And lastly friends, if you want to understand the results for all the Pisces ascendant natives, so definitely friends, in your case, as you can fairly see that this whole axis of Rahu and Ketu is going to take place in your 2nd house and the 8th house, which is a little bit sensitive energy. So friends, beginning with from the Rahu's perspective, so friends, we cannot overlook this fact that definitely Mars is a very auspicious planet for all of you guys. It has got the rulership of the 2nd house. It has also got the rulership of the 9th house as well. The second thing is that friends, Rahu's transit in the 2nd house can be seen as very good, that it can actually make your speech very influential. So if you work in a field where giving presentation or presenting yourself, you are an actor, you are a musician, all those things are getting qualified in your case, so you can get benefited because of the force or that kind of hypnotic charm which is going to come to your face, to your voice. The second thing is that friends, when we talk about from material perspective, so if your nature of work or line of work involves like going across the plane of right and wrong, like when we talk about in today's day and age, people have source of income and channel of income from all different sort of means. So I would say that in all those cases where your line of work is involved, like because the astrological principles were written so many years back when we did not have leverage or we have access to all different kind of source of income. These days people are making money from, like, you work in any sort of alcohol business, casino business, adult industry. There are like so many things which are not considered as right in the purview of the social norms, but people are rich, people are making money from all of those channels. So if that is getting qualified in your case, working and making money straight away feels connected with the Rahu domain. So I can say you can get benefited. That is a different thing, that your ascendant lord is the most rightest planet, but you can still get benefited. The vulnerable aspect of this transit is that friends, Rahu's transit from the 2nd house many times create lot of misunderstanding within the family. Like many times what happen is that if Mars is not well placed in your chart, you do not have control over your speech, so many times the harshness or the words used by you might create sort of a misunderstanding, a turmoil, or a kind of a very hostile environment within the family. So all the family got together because of there is some festival, there is some sort of celebration, you had some outburst, you spoke something, and that actually created misunderstanding in the whole gathering, in the whole family. So those kind of circumstances can be foreseen whenever Rahu is transiting from your 2nd house. And I would say that in the matters of your domestic life, family matters, even when we talk about your eating habits, because Rahu in the 2nd house gives lot of temptation for eating those foods which is not very healthy, or drinking and that sort of hedonistic lifestyle, indulgent lifestyle. So these are the areas where you have to protect yourself. Now friends, when we talk about from Ketu's perspective, so Ketu's transit from the 8th house is always a sensitive energy. Like when we talk about all the wounds and the suffering of the past or the trauma of the past suddenly might start come on the surface and start troubling you. So you have to remain at guard that you should not pay heed, or you should not go very deep in all those matters of the past suffering. Otherwise it might take a toll in your present environment, in your present state of happiness. The second thing is that friends, definitely when we talk about anything to do with research, if your line of work, nature of work involves lot of research, exploration, if you are in the fields of archaeology, spirituality, astrology, insurance, joint resources, so all those people can actually get benefited because of the critical and very eye for detail attitude being put forth in their line of work. The second thing is that that, friends, as you can fairly see that like 8th house, which also represents our in-laws. So if 2nd house is your family, 8th house is your partner's family. So definitely, friends, this is the time period where if you are not going through some healthy good time, or you do not share a very good rapport or relationship with your in-laws, so I would say it is not very advisable to come face to face, or kind of bring out all the matters or the situations or events of the past, because it is only going to lead to some more added confusion only. So if that is getting qualified in your case, it becomes very important that have that peaceful, poised state of mind if you are even considering going that road of digging up the matters of the past within your relationship. And apart from that, friends, definitely this can be seen as good in this regard, that if your line of work involves anything to do with the Rahu domain of fashion, of beauty, of luxury, of social media, you can get benefited. And you also have a spiritual bent of mind, taking interest in yoga, meditation. So the transit of Ketu in the 8th house can actually give you access to actually unravel all the deep secrets hidden in the universe, which can be only kind of accessed only through divine grace, or because of the spiritual religious bent of mind only. So that is something, friends, which I wanted to say in general, the transit guidelines for all the ascendants. Trust me, friends, this is going to be very intense time period. For next 18 months, Rahu and Ketu are going to be in a very intense state, where Rahu is actually going to work with the best of its intensity and power in order to push you for your progressive path in this lifetime. And when we talk about Ketu's perspective, so you will definitely find that sort of resonance of spirituality and all the spiritual nectar of bliss which will flow through the deep intimate relationship which you have in this life with the people around you. So friends, for further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. धन्यवाद.